Hi, this is Tom, and in this video, I'm going to go through setup and the admin of Exportfile. So to get to setup and admin, I'm going to go to Tools, and then at the very top, Setup. And I'm going to start off by going to your info here at the very top. Now, this is where anyone can change your password, and you can also set up two-factor authentication here. You just need to click this Set Up Two-Factor Authentication button, and it will give you a barcode that you can scan with your authentication app. Everyone has access to this Your Info section, and you can come in here and change your password anytime and also your email. These other admin sections here on the left may not be available to you. Depends on the permissions that you have in the program, which we'll go through in this video. But depending on what your permissions are, you may or may not see some of these other sections. So let's go ahead and get started with users and putting those users into roles. So I'll go to the roles section here. And here you can see I have several roles already plugged into this program. So we have a primary user. This is the role that only belongs to the primary user of the program. They can do anything in the program at all times. And then I have some other roles here in my test company setup here. And the roles names are default, external role, standard user, and president. And beside that, we have move up and move down buttons. And that's just in case you want to have roles that sort of control other roles. They just need to be higher up in the hierarchy than that role. So for example, the default user, if for example it was set up to add and remove users, it could apply that to the users and roles that are below it. So you can use these buttons to change the hierarchy of the different roles. So I'm logged in here as the primary user of this company. And as you can see, that role can do everything. But now I'll go ahead and just go down to default. So I have options to update this role and delete the selected role and create a new role, which is similar to a copy button for this role. I would just have to put a new name here in the role. So really quickly, the higher section of abilities here, they're generally admin abilities like being able to add users and add offices and so on and so forth. And the lower section of abilities or permissions here, they're generally abilities to say view shipments and edit shipments. So now I'll go down to the user section, and here at the top is a drop down where I can pull up a user. So I'll just pull up this new user here. And as you can see, I have some basic information about them. And importantly, I can see their role here. So this user is in the default role, and that means that they can do all of the things that the default role can do. They're also assigned to this test office, and if I wanted to, I could assign them to the other office here in the test company. And I have their name as it displays in the program. I can also reset their password and email here. And there's also a checkbox here for sales associate. That means that you can basically connect them to various accounts, and then you can run reports on those accounts by the salesperson or associate user here. And we have options to clear all the fields. We have options to update a user and delete this user. That's because I've actually got one selected here. And if I go make this blank, now I have options to create a user if I was to type something in here. So as you're setting up users in Exportfile, you would just go in here and you would type in their login name. Some people like to use an email for this. The password, confirm the password. Then you could put in their actual email. And then this is where their name would go as it displays in the program. And you can then assign them the role you would like them to be in. Now I'll move on to the company section. This is where you can store basic information about the company. So for example, the company name, the EIN number of the company, FMC number, this appears on some documents, SCAT code, this also appears on some documents, TSA codes, IATA codes. Really quickly, this Intra ID, if you would like to get set up with Intra, just let us know and we'll help you establish an ID with them. So you can go in here and edit your own ID, but until we actually go through the process with Intra of plugging that ID in, it wouldn't actually work. AMS filer ID can go in this field. And then we have some other basic properties here, like can they edit the BL charges directly on the document? if they're an NVOCC, and this basically just determines whether or not the actual shipper shows up in bills of lading. And the last checkbox here is the payment info and verbiage on invoices will appear on import documents. The next section we're going to cover are offices. So I'll go here into the office section, and this is where you can keep information about the office. So address information, for example, is going to go in here. You can have a default user for this company. Basically what this means is if you're plugged in with a client app and those people are creating shipments, then it will be filed under the default user's name. We have an intro code for the office if that's necessary for them to have their own intro code. And also this field applies to the client app. So if they go in there and they make an HBL edit, then an email notification gets sent to this email address. And then last here are restricted rates. So if you use our program for rates and you want this office to have a restricted version of that, you can check this off. And really important here on the right side is the list of documents that will be displayed for that office. So we have quite a list of documents available here in Exportfile. And as you can see, my test company office here, it's missing quite a few documents. We do have a pretty large selection available. I'd recommend you kind of go through this and check and uncheck everything you need. Generally, you might want to keep your documents list as short as possible. If you're not going to use some of these documents, you can come back in here and uncheck them. Next, I'm going to go to Chart of Accounts. So this is where you can set up the accounting charges that will display in the accounting section. So for example, things like ocean freight charges, administration charges, trucking charges, all the different charges you might want to use in an invoice, you can create them here. So you can pull up a charge. For example, here's a documentation fee, and if I needed to say correct the misspelling in here or change the name, I could. The accounting name, really importantly for our connection to some accounting programs, you have to have an exact match on the name. And you might not want to change the display name in our program, but you do have to have an exact match for your accounting program. So this is, for example, if you needed to change this, let's say in your accounting program, the actual charge name is doc fee. Then you could, for example, change this to doc fee, and while keeping the name in our program as documentation fee, and everything still matches up. Also in the near future, I just want to mention, we're going to have some GL codes in here. So if you have some GL codes that you want to use to connect into another program, you can also display the GL codes here, and you can come in here and edit those GL codes. And last, I will go here to the client users section. So you can set up your customers to view all of their shipments in Exportfile. And if you'd like to, you can also have it so that they can create their own quotes, they can get rates on shipments. You can also plug them in to get their HBL documents. And if you'd like, you can even have them able to edit their HBL documents. So you can pull up in this top drop down, you can pull up a client user. And for example, here I've pulled up my external tester client user, and I see everything except their password. Here's the contact that they are connected to, which is Eric Brown that I've made up here, and their associated office. If they edit an HBL, it would go to this email address, the associated user. So whatever activities they might do in the client app, it's by default going to be connected with this associated user. The number of rates that they can see per search. Right now, this test company here is set up at 6. And then we have this user can create and copy shipments. So do you want them to be able to do that in the client app? Can they view and print a released HBL? So you could check that off if you want them allowed to do that. Can they see rates? If you check this and no margin is set up for this company, they will still not see rates. So that is a separate issue. We only show rates if you have set up a margin for those rates. So you can check this off, but without the margin, they still won't see rates. And once you do set them up with a margin, then they will see rates, but only for that margin. So for example, let's say you set up a margin for shipments going to France, right, to add, say, $100 of margin. then they would only see shipments going to France, and they would only see them with that margin already added onto it. And then we also have a checkbox for whether or not they can see LCL rates. And also, really quickly, I'm going to revisit this connect to a contact. So you want to determine which company or person this external user is actually connected to. Right now, they're connected to Eric Brown, which is in ABC Company. And I'm just going to reestablish this connection. So in here, I'm just going to go in and type ABC. And now ABC Company has come up. And I'm going to just connect it to someone else at ABC Company, to Sally here, for example. And there we go. And I'll just go ahead and click save on that and update them. And now, as you can see, it's updated their name there to Sally too as well. It lets us know the specific person that they're connected to at that company. So that's how you actually connect them to a contact company in the system. And then if, for example, I'm just going to exit out of this really quickly. If, for example, I have a shipment with ABC Company, I can go pick Sally here. I do really quickly want to mention, though, that anyone connected to ABC Company could see the shipment. I'm going to go ahead and specifically pick Sally, though, and her name is green in the background to indicate that she is a client app user and she could come see the shipment. So now, for example, the shipper, and this is ABC Company, and now Sally, when she logs into the client application, can come view the shipment. And depending on some of the other things you may or may not have checked off, she may be able to view an HBL, for example. And I think we've covered everything here in the admin section. As always, if you have any questions, please let us know at support@exportfile.com. Thanks.